And I think the most important thing, again, I just said this a few minutes ago, but it's the people.
Right.
I don't care what the therapy is. It's that who are the people that are with my child, and do they see him, believe in him, care about him deeply, and don't think he's limited.
Like if you're wanting to educate yourself more, maybe about your decisions that you're making, listen to the people who actually are autistic.
Remember, a lot of things you're reading online from the research or people writing things are people who are not autistic.
Right. They are not experiencing autism.
They are not experienced, so they are not, in my eyes, as much of an expert. And again, one-to-one. One autistic person is one autistic person, right?
That's still better than a neurotypical person. I have a question before we get into like all of that.
Oh, this is not planned?
This is not planned at all.
I have no idea what she's going to ask.
No. So the question is, what would my life look like if autism hadn't entered it?
Damn, that's deep. So what would my life look like? Welcome back to Over Dinner, episode 11. Glad to have you back. Nick, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Good?
Yeah.
Awesome?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what our son does.
Yeah.
Actually, both our kids say, yeah.
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 Yeah. We had a few requests since this podcast started about being over dinner and having conversations. You want to correct me?
Well, no.
You can correct me.
It started while we were having dinner.
Yes.
Our conversations were over dinner.
Great point.
It was just grammar.
Cool. This is a good start. But we had a few requests to say, what are we eating for dinner each night before we record. So we'll start doing that. And we'll put the recipes out there. So tonight was pretty simple. We made a couple top sirloin steaks. We had a nice sweet potato. We add a lot of sweet potato to a lot of our meals. And then we had some cauliflower, some broccoli, and some carrots.
Gosh, we are healthy.
Healthy. Nikki, let's talk about what you tried to make. What did you try to make tonight?
Oh my God.
Let's
tried
talk
to
about
make
it.
the viral... Okay, I'm trying to have more protein in my diet.
Yeah.
So I have never tried cottage cheese. I don't know what it is, but I
don't like cottage cheese.
You don't like it?
I don't know. I haven't.
I've never had it.
I've told myself I haven't liked it for the last 25 years. But I don't know.
You said your mom ate it all the time.
Yeah, and I think I have an experience where I ate it once maybe then. And
I just don't. Okay, so anyways, there's this whole thing going on around right now that is like, put cottage cheese in everything. Ice cream, cookie dough, flatbreads, pizza crust. Every single thing.
So you tried to make a pizza crust.
Well, today I realized I was very low in my protein game. And I was like, how can I add a good amount of protein? And I bought a cup of cottage cheese. I can't remember the name of the brand. It's like a popular one. And I'm like, I'm going to try this. And today it was the expiration date. So I was like, today's the day. And I made it. And somehow the timer that I put on did not go on. So it burnt to a crisp. And we did not get the protein. Nope. And we did not try cottage cheese tonight. No. If you have tried the viral on TikTok cottage cheese pizza, please let me know how it is.
We'll try it again.
We'll try it again. I also saw a chicken when I was telling you about. You can make a chicken crust with like Parmesan to have a Caesar salad.
Sounds pretty good. We'll try that.
I think that sounds really good.
We'll try it and let me know how it goes.
Yeah. Is it easy for you to get a lot of protein in? Do you feel like? I wonder how much. I feel like you eat less than I do.
Well, I feel like you're supposed to eat 1 gram per 1 pound of body weight. I don't know. I try to get, because I fast too. It makes it a little more challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I try.
Do you still need to fast? You've been fasting
I just feel
for
right. It just feels right. I'm not hungry. I have my protein shake.
Because I just read something tonight that said you should be eating within the first 3 hours that you wake up.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Well, I do. I technically do because I have my protein shake. That's all I have.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll eat like 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I am. I have protein shake and then I don't eat again.
I put the protein with the collagen, which gives me, I think it's like 47 grams of protein.
Yeah.
First thing I have in the morning.
Do you feel like it has a taste to it, the collagen?
I can't even taste it.
Yeah. I don't know. I was doing that for a little bit when I was doing like the shake ones.
Yeah.
Besides, not my smoothie that I make, but the shake ones. I don't know.
I don't taste it. I don't know what it tastes like.
Yeah, it's like 47 grams of.
Yeah, it's great. So it's not.
Great.
And then
you should add cottage cheese to it.
I'm not going to do it. All right. Anyway, so We're on episode 2 of a 2-part series, which is really diving into the topic of autism, specifically to us. Last week we talked about our son Jake and really signs leading up to pre-diagnosis to diagnosis, to how that experience played out for us as individuals and as a couple, to where we have evolved and where we are now, and still the challenges that we're navigating on a day-to-day basis. This week, we want to talk about how we're supporting him and the types of therapies that we have chose for him, challenges we face with those therapies, advocating, switching when you feel like it's not going well, and just all about it, right? There's hot topics out there, especially in the world of autism.
And the internet.
And the internet around ABA. So we'll definitely talk about that because Jake isn't in an ABA program. But we really just want to hope you guys leave today with not what therapies, but how to know how to support your child based off their needs.
Yep.
And that's the most important. And what we've learned
Yep.
over the last 2.5 years in navigating this, because we've switched. We've done a lot of things. We've tried outside of therapy. We've tried to put them in pre-K. There's a lot of things we've tried. And this is just what we know. But we feel like we have a couple themes in there that
that are universal.
That are universal, that can relate to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, you said it so well that this is how we're supporting Jake, what we've learned, and that this is a ongoing experience where you're going to try things aren't going to work. It's okay to make change. It's part of it. Your kid is going to be evolving as well. And, not every kid is going to need every therapy. So recognizing what your child needs is ultimately what we're going to be talking about today. It's not go do these therapies.
Yep.
We're talking about what our child has benefited from, as well as ways that you can go about building that for your kid, you know?
Yeah, so I want to start with you.
I actually have a question.
You want to start first?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question. Before we get into all of that,
Damn.
I thought about it earlier.
She told me
today.
this. She said she's going to ask me a question, but she wasn't going to tell me what the question was because she wanted it off the cuff.
Yeah.
So this is not planned?
This is not planned at all.
I have no idea what she's going to ask me.
Okay. So the question is, what would my life look like if autism hadn't entered it?
Damn, that's deep.
I know.
You know I'm a processor.
I'll give you 2 seconds.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
I don't know. And you know me. I'm not a person that looks at things could be or would have been. So you're asking a person that all I know is my first child was autistic.
Is autistic. He's alive.
He still is. He still is autistic. Yeah. So what will my life look like? I don't know, because I don't know what our child or Jake would have been without being autistic. I know what Sydney is. And let's just say I had another Sydney. It's still freaking hard. And she's even harder sometimes. Right? So I don't think I want to know. I don't think I want to know. Because I can imagine, we'd be doing all these other things and some of the challenges that we said in the other episode and stuff like that around relationships and playing sports and all those things. But I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if that would have been it. But that's what I imagined prior to having my first child.
Yeah.
But you imagine probably a lot of things before you have your first child, and it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know what my life would look like, but I don't want my life any different than it is.
Yeah.
Back to you.
So you want me to answer it?
I want you to answer it.
I was thinking about this question, and
you wrote some stuff down?
Well, this is from What Nick Knows, my main journal that I write in all the time.
It's a blog.
This is not the blog. This is the pre to the blog. I write in here first. This is a lot.
You should share that too.
It's like 125,000 words.
It's a lot of words.
Yeah. So I wrote here the other day, or actually this was today at 6:42 p.m. What would our life look like without autism? Would we have more neighborhood friends? Would I make an effort to set up more play dates? Would I plan birthday parties and invite friends over? Would we go on vacation more? Would I be less anxious? Autism has changed me, some for the good and some for the worse. And the worst is that I'm so much more in my head about everything. Like going to an indoor play space, I am the only parent with a child over the age of 3 climbing up with him just because I want to make sure he doesn't push other kids. And it's funny, though, because I see a ton of other kids doing kid-like things, and their parents don't seem to
like
mind.
Pushing other kids.
Right. And that right there is what I'm jealous of. That they don't have to decide whether it's autism or it's just their kid. They don't have to judge the experience. They don't limit, right? They don't worry. They're not... So that's how I was feeling. Like that's how it came up for me. Like, what would it look like now that we've added this piece in? And I totally agree with you that I don't want to change it at all. Somebody asked, I've read this blog once, and somebody asked, like, would you take autism away from your child? And my response to that would be, I would change the world to be more adaptable to neurodiverse people, right? It's tough because, Jarrod and I were actually just talking about this over dinner about how we show up in the world now that we do have a child on the spectrum, right? Do we hold ourselves back? Is it how we perceive they will be thinking about us, right?
Yes.
So it's interesting to explore it and to untangle your own biases and to be aware of your own, just nuances. But like even today, we were both really proud of ourselves. We're trying to give Jake more independence. If you've listened to last episode, we talked about rice theory. If you didn't hear the episode, rice theory is really about, even though if he doesn't do it, doesn't mean he can't do it. Or if he doesn't want to do it, doesn't mean he can't do it.
Can.
And for us not to think he cannot.
Yeah.
So today we've been really trying to just step away a little bit, give him more space and trust, and then to intervene.
Yeah.
So today we went to this play space, and he actually did.
Incredible.
I mean, incredible. Like Sydney was rolling around, and actually they both did so good. Great. But he really consistently is showing me just growth. It's really cool to watch, where he's at. So I wanted to ask you that question off the bat, and I also wanted to say that because I'm sure many of the people who have listened to this, there was a previous you, right? And that's okay to grieve that innocent kind of mindset about these things. Perhaps you weren't totally in relationship with autism at all. Maybe it wasn't in any part of your life, and now it's totally your whole life. And that's okay to grieve that, and it's okay to also grieve what it could have looked like. We talked last episode about the Holland and Italy poem.
Please go back and listen to the other one. There's a lot of context leading up to this conversation.
Yes, and a lot of this stuff is in the show notes as well if you're looking for resources from previous episode. It's okay. And what I've really learned is that both of these things are going to coexist. Yeah. That I can be at the pool and love being with we were at the pool today, just to give you a little framework. We were at the pool. I can love being at the pool and then watch and witness and experience and love his growth that he's had from a year ago in the pool, and also be envious of when a little boy yelled across the way to his mom telling her he had to go potty, and not having that same experience of like, oh, what is that like to know that? And I don't know if it wasn't necessarily grief. It was more so just like sometimes Carrie Carrillo, I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. She's my favorite blogger. She has a 20-year-old autistic son. Please follow her on Facebook. She has books out. I have her book. She has 2 books out, I believe now. Maybe even 3. But she talks about how autism are like tiny paper cuts that just happen. Just at different times, different little small things that happen that are very ordinary, but are bigger than that for parents with a kid on the spectrum. Or probably, this is actually a complete assumption, but probably those who expected life to be different with their child. It's just, you can have days where it's like things are rocking, and they're going to have days where things are low. And so to come back into, support and things like that, that is something also I want to share, is that we have experienced highs and lows while in support tools for Jake. So like in different therapies. And sometimes it's like, is it the therapist? Is it him? Is he not outgrowing this? Does he need different support? Does he need higher support needs? Does he need lower support needs? Does he need this? Does he need that? And that's another thing about being a parent with a child whose language has either not arrived. I don't like to use the word nonverbal. I've been reading a lot from autistic voices who have been saying like that's just really not it's not a supportive way to talk about it. So it's those who have not found expressive language at this time, but they're using it maybe through an AAC device or other ways that they're communicating. Because they are communicating in a lot of other ways. You're guessing. You are their voice. You are navigating all that. Yeah. So, do you follow me now?
I got you now.
Okay.
Cool. So, let's get into it. So, I want to start with the initial journey because you were the one, after we got his diagnosis, you went into action.
Yeah.
So, you first get a diagnosis. What did you do? How do you start looking? How do you know? Obviously, you spoke in the last episode. The gold standard, what they're typically going to recommend is ABA. And she said ABA, speech, and OT. But ABA is the gold standard of autism.
For multiple reasons.
For multiple reasons. So, like, you started to do your research, reach out. Like, what was that experience? Like, what did you learn? What was overwhelming?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. Well, the days after you get an autism diagnosis are very overwhelming, right? Like, you're like, what do I do? And you, at this point, do not have enough ground underneath you to believe that you're the expert. Maybe some people do already, like, no, I got this. For us, it was brand new. It was like, oh, I don't know what the right decision is. And I had already started following, I think, a little bit of like autism things to have already had an opinion about ABA. So I remember when he was first diagnosed, my parents were telling me about Mary Barbera, who talks a lot about ABA and has been a great resource in terms of understanding how to support your child and a bunch of different things. So we'll put her in the show notes. But there was a lot of talk about like intensive therapy. And at first I didn't even like the word intensive. Yeah. Like I was not.
Especially for a 2-year-old.
Yeah, for a 2-year-old. I'm like, that's not how this is going to go around. And you know, it's really funny because I think around at the same time we had just watched King Richard. And I remember specifically how much I respected his parenting of like tennis wasn't life. It was a whole life. So school and going to Disney World and doing all these different things. And so when I thought about therapies for Jake, it wasn't just like, this is it. He's going to be a kid. He's going to have a lot of that. So we got his actual diagnosis is autism spectrum disorder with impaired language, I think it was, which means he had an expressive and receptive language impairment. What is that a word?
Impairment?
Like, yeah. It sounded funny. You know, it's like fork.
Fork's a word too.
I know. You know, you sometimes say something, you're like, yeah. Fork. Okay. Back to what we were talking about. How
did fork even come?
That's a whole. Do you want to do an episode on that? Because you would love to bring out this book right here, Sapiens.
Yep.
You'd probably talk a lot about that.
Favorite book.
So she gave us the treatment plan, and within the treatment plan, it said 35 hours of ABA therapy, one session a week of OT, one session a week of speech. And ABA is the gold standard for a lot of reasons, one of which is it is the only therapy that is covered by insurance. And so it is DIR, it's not covered by insurance, speech therapy. I mean, some of these are, but in terms of like autism, ABA is the one that is covered. So, and it's like recommended by pediatricians. There's a whole side of ABA that we're not going to go into because I'm not an expert in that area.
Yeah. Do the research yourself.
Yeah, please do the research yourself. So I interviewed 27 ABA companies. I'm using the word I because I was on the ground level doing this, but the end decisions were all a we. So I just want to say as I'm talking like this, Jarrod was very involved, but
thanks, babe.
We learned about the I and the we thing in therapy like several months ago, and now I'm like always thinking about it when I'm saying I.
She used to say I a lot.
Yeah. But like, it's because I'm the one who's actually doing it. It's not bigger than that. It's like literally that literal.
It's literal.
Okay.
Literal.
So I interviewed 27 ABA companies, and it was grueling. I was really, really overwhelmed. I didn't know what I was doing. At this point, you're thinking like, fix the problem, when later you learn like it's not a problem to be fixed. So through those companies, I had a top like 3 because I was in a ton of Facebook groups. That's a big recommendation that I have, is you don't have to stay in Facebook groups, because I know those themselves can just be overstimulating and have too much information in them. But I went in there and I researched ABA companies that moms were recommending in different posts. Was
there anything you asked or you heard that stood out? Like, what were your specific ABA company you were looking for, or what was the criteria? When you talk on the 27, what was narrowing down, dropping them out, and getting to your top 3?
Okay, that's a great question. So in between the diagnosis and the Mary Barbera piece, I started following a lot of like autism things on Instagram. And this is when my head got filled with ABA is bad. Bad, 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 bad. They're here to change your child. It's a therapy for a dog. Like, they're going to reinforce all these behaviors, and they're trying to make your kid typical. And autistic adults are saying they have PTSD from ABA, and I'm like, what the fuck are we putting our kid into? Like, this is so traumatic that we have to make this super, super controversial decision to put him in, our 2-year-old, into this program. So I was looking for the opposite. I was looking for something that was light, that was collaborative, open, kind, was not there to change, was there to support and provide accommodation for that child's unique needs, open-minded, growth mindset, really a progressive state of ABA. And people keep saying there's no new ABA. No, there's probably no new ABA, but the therapists and the BCBAs and how they are delivering the therapy is very different. Like, when our kid is tired or he's having a bad day, there is no therapy that is being pushed on him. They play, they do all of the stuff he loves to do. So none of that is ever pushed on. So I had narrowed down to 2 companies. I went to one of them, and when I went into the space, I just knew it was not the right one. It didn't feel right. Plus there was a wait list, so it didn't work out. The one I wanted, I knew from the minute I saw the website, I knew I wanted that one. And they weren't answering the phone, and so I just stayed persistent.
You did.
I got them. I remember he like picked up the phone, the owner of it, and was like, "Hi, Nikki." And I'm like, "Hello, I am trying to." So anyways, Jake got on the wait list, and he started there, and that was June 2022. And so he is an ABA. We picked that center, and he's been there for 2 years now. And we like it a lot.
Love it.
We love it. Like, leaving it to go to our next stage is going to be really, really hard.
And let's just say, through the 2 years, we've doubted.
A lot.
We've gone back and forth because we've either seen more things or heard more things, or seen Jake, or have had different therapists come in and things like that. But what always centered us, and let's talk about why we're still there and why we love it, is a few things. The 2 BCBAs that we had have been absolutely wonderful. Mm-hmm. Like, love Jake.
Love him.
See him. Like, literally see him. They like, you can see that, like, when they're speaking about him, there's a joy and delight about who Jake is.
Every single person is talking about him like that.
It's
she comes to speech.
Yeah.
She's
and that's
been
the
to
thing
OT.
you might hear with ABA. Like, they won't go outside their center if you have other support.
Like, they're not collaborative.
They're not collaborative. Ours are like, no, we'll come to a speech session. We'll come to your OT session and get to learn from those, because we want the best for him. That's the centerpiece of the place that we go to, is it's what is best for Jake.
And they invite us in, so we have a lot of parent training, but I'm also able to go to the center and like witness what's happening anytime we want. Like, there's it's a very open communication. Team's
the most important, is the people that are around Jake. Like, in life in general, the people you surround yourself with have the biggest influence on you. So when you're putting your 2-year-old in an environment at such a crucial developmental part of their age, the people he's around are most important. Obviously, he's around us, but who else is he interacting with? He's going to ABA for 20 plus hours a week. The people there are really, really important. And so that they see him, they care about him. The things with us, like, it's open communication. You can text them all day. They're texting you updates all day. If we want to jump on a call, we jump on a call. We had weekly calls every single week planned. When we're going over goals, it's not, they're saying, hey, we think you need this, but what do you want? So we actually get to sign off on what his goals are and what we want for him, right? And if we are feeling something or a challenge with something or didn't have the experience at one time, they're so open to feedback and they'll immediately implement it, like so fast. So for us, and especially,
I'm talking like from Jake's hyperlexic and speech. She's writing. We found out Jake can read. When Jake was 3, we found out Jake could read from speech therapy, and that he was responding so well to the whiteboard, writing on a whiteboard for like going potty specifically. And I told the BCBA, and she literally that day,
she got the team together,
and now they use the whiteboard. They all do it, or they know that he's a Gestalt Language Processor, so they sing to him. They don't use as many questions. They use more declarative language. Like they implement what we tell them is happening at home as well.
And that tells us they're thinking about him first,
right?
Not about ABA, not about the structure or the foundation or how it's supposed to be implemented. It's like, what does Jake need? We will give that to him. His parents want us to do something. We're going to do it. Obviously, there's limits and boundaries always with everything. So I think that's been, and for us, we're a highly communicative family. So communication and over communication is huge. Crucial, right? We want them to give us feedback. We want to give them feedback. And it's just this open dialogue. We're never not knowing what's going on, right. And we never feel that we can't speak up when we need to speak up.
Right.
So,
and they've also been honest with us. So like Jake he's always been around 27 hours of ABA. It's broken up throughout the week. It's not super intense. And we took him out for a little bit to see how he would do in a public pre-K program. It was special education. It was not a good match at all. And our BCBA at the time had brought up some concerns, not trying to keep us there, but she was honest about some of the areas of Jake needed to still work through. And that was clear, but that wasn't why we took him out of the pre-K program. But anyways, when he went back, she gives us honest feedback, but it's never spoken in a way. I mean, sometimes I get a little, my mama bear comes out where I'm like, don't say.
You're defensive about your child.
I'm also,
she's honest. She's always honest.
She's honest. I also get a little like language, like how things are used. Like, he's deficit in this. I'm like, I don't like that. Like, I don't know if Sydney would have the same. That's the thing. It's like, because he has an autism, like a label that they're like, oh, you're deficit in this. So look, it's no one's going to be perfect, right? Your OT, your speech therapist, your BCBA is not going to be perfect. But all the things that Jarrod said about, your child coming first and them really putting them and what their well-being and how they can best support them. I mean, that's the most important thing.
Most important thing. And I think the most important thing, again, I just said this a few minutes ago, but it's the people.
Right.
I don't care what the therapy is. It's that who are the people that are with my child, and do they see him, believe in him, care about him deeply, and don't think he's limited. And that's what happened at the pre-K program. Yeah, they thought he was limited.
So that's why we took him out, because they didn't
communicate. They did not communicate. How hard it was to get a 15-minute phone conversation. Took weeks, and they gave us 15 minutes. Yeah. And then we would try to have similar conversations like we will with our BCBA about, hey, he enjoys this. This actually works. And then it was never implemented. And then also, Jake can't tell us every day. We can't go, how was your day at school? And he's going to tell us all those things. But he expresses himself. Mm-hmm. We can see it in his emotions, his
He's
demeanor.
scripting.
Yeah, all these things. And coming out of ABA every single time, he is
Engaged.
He runs right to us. He's so happy when we're driving there. He's excited. He talks about, I want to go ABA. He says his BCBA's names. And then when we did that pre-K, which is not too relevant for this, but when we did go there, he come out and he was just dysregulated, off. Scripting. And for Jake, that's how he regulates himself. He repeats sentences or movies or scripts that he's learned.
He's a
before.
Gestalt Language Processor.
Yeah,
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. Thanks. But it was such a different child coming out of that than coming out of ABA.
Yeah.
Right. And again, there's so much out there, and we've doubted ourselves a few times because of stuff that we've seen on the internet or been questioned upon. And are we hurting him? But again, he is happy and he likes going there, and he asked to go there, and he asked for his BCBAs. And if that ever changed, we would change. Mm-hmm. But that has been a wonderful place. And they even told us about it. We've talked to the owner, we've talked to our BCBA, like they want to be the change in the ABA world of what it's thought about. Child-led, let's follow their interests, let's work on skills to help them adapt, not change them, but be able to adapt in a world that isn't necessarily set up for them to be successful. And that's what we want for him too. Like we want him, back to the first episode, to be a full, fulfilled, independent human being when they get older. And there's certain things and certain skills that he does need to be able to do that at this point. And they help us do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said.
So let's talk about the other one. So we do OT. Mm-hmm. We do speech. Mm-hmm. We'll start with speech because we've navigated that in a few different ways, and we love where we're at right now with our speech therapist. So why don't you talk about kind of our journey with speech therapy? Obviously, we had to learn more about our child to set him up, and that's a big thing too. Early on in your diagnosis and getting that diagnosis, that's your first time going, all right, autism in my world. My child is autistic. But as we said, it's a spectrum. Your child's one of one. So you're going to need to learn more about your child because once you're not really thinking about those things until that lens is finally on.
Yep.
And now you're like, all right, what does it mean? Because if you go out and look at autism in general, you're just going to get what the base of it is, and you might make decisions of that. But Jake is very unique, and he has different needs.
What are some of those talked about? His uniqueness. We never really actually have talked about who Jake is.
So lots of language, insane amount of language, right? But
clarify what that means.
Yeah, but he's a Gestalt Language Processor. So GLP, meaning a typical person like me and you, we learned from an early age on by starting with one word.
Analytic processing.
So we learn one word, and then we would take those words, piece them together to make sentences. Where Jake learns in what we call scripts, which means Gestalts. Damn, she's always getting me. Which is he watches a show or hears us say something like
a song.
I want a banana. He would learn that whole script, and then he'd use that all the time, even when it wasn't
Mama help or Mommy help me.
He'd use them not in the right time, but because he can memorize those things. But then what he has to do is break that down to individual words,
right?
And then become analytical and start to build back up
his own language.
To make his own language. So
there are 6.
He has to take an extra process.
Yes, there's 6 stages of GLP: boho speechy, meaningful speech, our own speech therapist, empowered speech services. We will put all of these in here. Who have a ton of information about GLP. And what I just want to we're going to talk more about Jake, but the only thing I want to just add here about GLP is if you have a child who is in traditional speech therapy and they are not moving past a single word, they might be a GLP because I believe it's over 70% of autistic people are Gestalt language processors. And you may want to consider looking at a therapy that would be supportive of using a natural language acquisition rather than the analytic processing. Jake he had several speech therapists, one speech therapist who recognized that he was a GLP, and that's what set us on this whole other course, and that's when language evolved for him. And I also want to say, those who are non-speaking at this time also can be GLPs. So that is, there's a lot of different signs to look for, and we'll put some great resources for you to look at to check it out.
Yeah.
So Jake is a Gestalt Language Processor.
Yep.
He's very musically inclined.
Very.
He can hear music
pitch.
and play the piano. He doesn't always want to do that, but
Nikki wants him to all the time.
Well, he surprised us, and I'm like, oh my God, like you have to do this all the time. But we don't. I never push him.
Yeah, so I thought it was something we learned because he's musical and he's a Gestalt language processor. That if we sing things to him, he actually a D flat is his favorite.
Yeah, we
notes.
learned that through Crescendo Communication. We'll tag her as well.
Yeah.
She's a music.
So we recorded
GLP
Jake
therapist.
singing and doing some of his scripts, and she's like, "Oh, he's obsessed with D flat. Like most of his cadences and a lot of notes that he hits is a D flat." So she's actually said he'll respond better to a lot of language when we want to say something or him to learn something is to actually sing it. So we have a lot of fun with it, right?
Yeah.
And we know what songs.
And Jarrod made it onto American Idol.
Jesus. Yeah.
You can, I don't know if it's on anywhere, but Jarrod made it onto American Idol. So we're a musical family. And this is really cool for you to be able to sing. Cool. He asked you to play the guitar.
Play the guitar, play the piano together. He's amazing at the piano.
Yep.
So other things about Jake, Nikki talked about it earlier, language. So he's a lot of expressive language. He is a little bit further along, but his receptive language is always
expressive language in terms of what he wants. Yep. But again, I think you're about to get to it. I didn't mean to cut you off. We're not having conversations with Jake yet.
Yeah.
They may be beginning.
Yeah, they're starting because he's starting to answer questions.
Yeah. Which is level 4 of GLP.
Yeah, he's answering questions. He's engaging with us and talking to us and sometimes asking us questions. So that's starting to happen. But on the receptive side of language, which receptive is more
following directions. Jake,
like,
where are your shoes?
Jake, where are your shoes? Jake, go get your shoes. Yeah. Jake, do these things. That's been something he's continuing to develop, which he's actually getting pretty good.
He can follow two-step directions.
Two-step directions, but that was a thing for a while that we were working on. So the biggest things we were actually working on with him was mostly language, language focus, and then now as he's gotten older, has been more just social.
He's hyperlexic. He has his special interest is numbers and letters.
And I feel like that gone into also shapes and colors. And all those things.
Yeah. All those are kind of within the hyperlexia family. If you're not familiar with hyperlexia, it is the advanced ability to. There's also a hyper numeric something with numbers, but it's the advanced ability to read at a very young age. What they have found though with hyperlexic people is that even though they have an advanced ability to read, they don't know how much they're actually comprehending, which you find out when they get into like first, second grade. But he can read. He loves his letters and numbers, and it's a cool interest. And
it's something we've leaned into for learning.
Fully lean into.
Right.
And every single one of his therapists leans into it too.
Because there's a lot of times when there are kids, because a lot of kids with autism have fixations on things, is that people try to pull them away. Pull them away from it, and that's really disturbing for them and really hard. It's like, no, let's lean into that. Like, he has interest.
Yes.
And if your kid is fascinated with soccer, you're not going to pull him away from soccer. You're going to go outside and play soccer every day. So his thing is numbers, letters, and music. So let's lean into it. Let's encourage it.
Like we do alphabet scavenger hunts.
Everything.
We do spelling. We do
alphabet soup.
Yeah. Alphabet soup is where it's in water and he gets a
spoon
and he stirs it and then he takes them out. Yeah. But we just lean into it.
Yeah, lean into your child's interest. I would say that's a big thing. Is like what your child will show an interest in something very specific. That's where you can make connection. That's where you can help the learning.
Yes.
That's where I connect the most with him is in his interest.
Yeah, like I think so often we are like they're not engaged with our world. Well, how often are you going into their world?
Yeah.
It's like that's when Jarrod and I have really, really done so much. Just like he said, is joining him when he's playing his things. And man, when we do that, he just lights up. He's just so happy to have us a part of that, and it's cool. So. Cool. Anyways, we're back to speed. Do you want to talk about anything more about Jake? He's hyperlexic, musical, GLP.
Sweetest boy, affectionate.
We don't have really a behavior.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of behaviors. He's actually great. Actually, one of it, he ranked really high on his coping ability.
Yeah.
His ability to...
I think he gets that from you.
Yeah, he can cope really well, and sometimes you see children on the spectrum have a hard time transitioning or moving on to different things.
He sometimes does, but
Yeah, but like
he
a
gets over it in
like a
10
typical
seconds.
kid.
He gets
But
over
probably
it in
less
10
than a typical. Like Sydney, no,
yeah, it's bad.
don't take my bunny.
Yeah.
Bunny's staying here.
I know.
No, but he'll.
I get scared to take things away
Dude,
from her.
yes, but he transitions well. He when he wants to cope, he breathes or he counts or he does his thing. Like he has skills to cope.
He asks
and
for a
does
squish
really
ball.
Yeah, asks for a squish ball. So yeah, he's an amazing kid.
Yeah, he really is super intelligent, sweet. You know, he's starting to find interest. Okay, so Jarrod was talking about he's starting to have interest with his peers, socialization. So that's like really what we're working on now. We are not forcing Jake to go have friends. What we are doing is providing him awareness of the social landscape so he can navigate it.
Yeah.
And if he wants friends, cool.
'Cause like Nikki said, sometimes like when we're at a indoor play center at a park, like he wants to go down the slide. There's a kid on the slide. I'm going to push the kid down because then I can go on the slide. So
Today he waited. I was so proud
he
of
did,
him.
but it's learning those skills of like social awareness. Not you have to go make friends and you have
Right.
to have socialization,
Right.
but you need to be aware there's other people in the world around you.
Yep.
Right, and they're also there too. And how
Yep.
do I navigate those? And how do I use language when I need to use language?
Yep.
So we're really trying to teach them that. And then, like I say, the last thing is just to say that going along that
Safety.
theme is safety.
Well, and thank you for actually bringing that up. So part of the reason why we chose ABA were there were specific things that we wanted him to get that he wasn't going to get in other places, at least in our opinion.
Yep.
Safety awareness, socialization in terms of like interacting with peers, language. That's pretty much it,
Yeah, that's it.
right? Like that was pretty much
And
it.
all our goals are centered around those things.
Yeah. And
That's
all
it.
of his therapies.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to go to speech?
Sure.
Okay. So, what do you want to talk? What questions do you have? For
Yeah,
me?
I think the topic we just hit is probably the biggest one we're going to hit. I think for speech, it was just that's the person. That really is the person. And because we learned he was a GLP, that we need to find someone that was trained in GLP.
Yeah.
And I also like that she comes to our house.
Yeah.
I think that's been really important because I think language acquisition in a natural environment more than in a center-based is actually really beneficial.
Yes. So that's also why we are making decisions to encourage Jake
Yeah.
when we're moving to a pre-K
Yeah.
with support.
Yeah.
Not the same one we were at, different one, just so he can be receiving. That's why we're
Yeah.
making the decision.
Because we think Jake's gained a lot of skills, and ABA has been really helpful, but it's
Center-based
center-based.
ABA,
Yeah,
yeah.
center-based. So now we want him to apply those skills in that acquisition that he's gotten into real-world circumstances. So at home, out in the community, Costco, the park, things that are going to be, well, as we said, we want him to have a fulfilled independent life. So we need to translate those skills from just being in a center to actually
Yep.
circumstances where he's going to navigate in the real world. So, but I think that's what I love about speech is that it's in home with a lot of his things. He's around environment.
It's an hour.
Yeah, it's an hour, which you'll see a lot of speech therapy being 30
28
minutes.
minutes.
28 minutes on the dot.
No, like it's 30 minutes, but they're cleaning up at 28.
Yeah, but our speech therapist is great. Again, back to seeing Jake, caring about Jake,
She loves him.
open communication, right? Transparent dialogue.
She's always
back
going
and
above
forth.
and beyond.
Yeah, but going back and forth when we have you voice concerns, right? She gives us direct feedback.
And even if it doesn't have to do with speech, I'm like, hey, I'd love to run something by
Yeah.
you because I trust her so much in the way she sees Jake that I have conversations with her about decisions that we're making before
Yep.
making decisions.
Yep.
You know, you want to have these trusted people
Yep.
in your life. We did go through 2 speech therapists that were not the right fit. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because I want you to think about if you've had situations like this in your own journey and kind of what to do about that. Do you think that would be helpful?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think it's about advocating.
Right.
And how do I know if the support, because that's the hardest part, is how do you know,
Yeah.
right? And one sign is your child.
Yep.
Like, I just look at Jake. Is he still happy?
Mm-hmm.
Is he fulfilled? And yes, is he growing? But you'll learn when you have a child on the spectrum, there's waves. Like there's peak moments where they're just growing. But like anybody, they have bad days and bad weeks or bad months, right? So it's questioning whether it's the support, what's going on with them, right, in that moment. But I think learning to advocate, but also knowing the hardest part is Are we still doing the right things? Are the therapies we're doing, the people that he's getting therapy from, are those all still right? And I think that's the hard part. So how do you know when to make a decision? What can you trust? How do you advocate? Yeah, I think those are good things we should talk about.
Cool. We've had a couple therapists, both OT and speech, that we weren't thrilled with, and all on the same lines that Jarrod was just saying. We were noticing Jake and what he was like. I had just an instinct. It was a feeling.
Most of this is an instinct, and you got to trust it.
Can we just slow that down for a second? Do you think that everybody has that natural instinct that we all have it?
We all have it.
So how do you get more in touch with that?
We're going on a whole other topic, but I could talk. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's important because I feel like I have an alert. Like I know immediately.
All of us do.
Right.
We're getting alerts hundreds of times a day.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Are you aware? Right? Are you? I don't want to go down this road, but it's really like, do you have? Are you aware of your body? Are you aware of your thoughts? Are you just operating? Are you thinking too far in the future or too far in the past? Like, how present are you to? The only time you can sense those intuitions coming and those instincts is that you're in the moment.
How do you know the difference between a cognitive decision and a gut decision?
Because it literally is, you feel it, like it's here.
Because that's something I've really struggled with, ABA sometimes. It's like, is this in my head or is this the right thing to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think, and that's a good question but I think if you slow down in that moment and ask yourself that question, it's still in your body.
You know what else we've done that has been helpful? So specifically when we just made this most recent decision about having to leave our ABA center to go to a different one that provides in community and in school and in home support. That was the hardest decision. But Jarrod and I did, we talked. I mean, we talked. Like, it was a lot.
Just a lot of talking.
A lot of talking. And then we did 5149, which was what? You want to tell what that is?
Well, it's people I got to be 100% dialed in on a decision. It's like it's never that way.
Yeah.
A decision isn't ever 100% to 0% of one or the other. This is actually from your dad. Mm-hmm. Shout out Sid. Yeah. Not the kid Sid, but Nikki's dad Sid. He said it's 51-49 is whatever. If you're 51, that means you're above the other one, right? More than 50%. And that's the right, because you never know if the decision for anything in life, but really specifically how I'm supporting my child and what I'm doing with my child, or decisions I'm making, is it 51%?
And we ask a bigger question, like, what are our hopes and dreams? Our
back
bigger
to the
picture.
other side, because we're clear, right? So whenever we doubt it, like, we shouldn't take him out. He's doing so great. They're awesome there. But we're like, what do we want most? We want him to be an independent, fully fulfilled child. And what do we think he needs right now to be able to do that? He needs to be around more peers to acquire more language, and he needs community support.
To work on safety awareness.
To work on just safety awareness. Yeah, implying what he's learning in the center, outside of center. And our current ABA does not allow. They don't do outside, right? They do all center based, which whatever, it is what it is. But
so here's how I need.
So that's how, because we were again back to that alignment. We knew what we wanted. Those decisions become a lot easier and a lot more clear. Yeah. If you don't know that, and you're just like, it will get really challenging because there's so much information coming this way. There's so much information coming from your head that if there's no like North Star, those will get very overwhelming and almost paralyzing, where you don't make decisions.
Right.
And don't know how to advocate, or should I advocate?
Yeah.
Right?
I think the most important thing you said there is like coming back to our values and the bigger goal, which really helps us steer the ship.
Everything.
Right. And so
we have to remind ourselves that sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Like a month or so ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, we had a dip, as Jarrod, we've talked about. It was not a regression, but Jake was just not. He was kind of stuck, and he was having some behaviors, some different things, and so I started questioning. There were some team changes, and I started questioning, is this the right fit for him? And what I came to, which I brought it up to Jarrod, because they were telling me that he was doing a lot of stimming. There's nothing wrong with stimming. I also know that Jake, because stimming can mean a lot of things. It can be really fun for him. Jake's stims are spinning, scripting, probably chewing on something. But anyways, he was spinning a lot in the center, and they were kind of just like letting him go, which is great in the sense they weren't stopping that from happening. But to me, the reason he was doing so much self-stimulatory behavior was because he was bored, and not because he wants to learn. He wants to do things. So that started us thinking about maybe he needs to go to school. And when I heard about this behavior that was happening, that's when the first step happened. Maybe we need to do something different. And I'm telling this example for a reason, not just our story, is that you're going to have moments. They're going to pop up and something else will come to you. And so as Jarrod was talking about getting in touch with what those things are, that and having that awareness, that's what's going to lead you down to your path and making these decisions.
And I wrote a post about this, but is that feeling based off you? Or is it based off your child?
Oh,
Is this making you uncomfortable and you're not feeling good about it? Or is this like, I actually don't think this is best for my child?
yeah.
Right? So that's a big thing
Big
too. Because
thing.
you're still having your own grief and your own feelings about everything that's going on. So are you making this more about you or about your child? And if it's about your child, then you have to lean into that a little bit. So let's talk about when you do have that instinct and it feels right. What do you do about it? How do you go advocate? How do you go speak up?
Yeah.
'Cause you do that a lot.
I do a lot. Yeah. I feel very grateful that it is part of my personality. Mm-hmm. It is part of who I am. And I'm also going to say like, thank you to my mom and dad, who are both therapists, as an only child, who gave me this skill at a very young age to speak up and to use my voice, to ask questions. My dad has always encouraged me, like, ask questions, even if they feel silly, ask questions. So sometimes I feel like I don't know how to like teach this because it's very embedded into who I am. And I'm not a type of person that like, if I'm feeling off about something, there's actually no way that I can hold it in. I mean, I've learned to be better.
Not with me.
but like in a good way, right?
No,
like we would not be where we are right now.
I have no girl code in my life.
No girl code.
I know exactly how you feel
Which
when
sucks
you feel
sometimes.
It's hard, but for someone who for a long time in their life didn't know how to express themselves, right? It's been hard, but it's been very helpful.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciate it about you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful to have that skill and also to have a strong intuition. And something that I know you totally agree on is like, it's your kid. So
it's your freaking kid.
You're gonna push a little bit more. No, you're gonna push more than you would. You're gonna push yourself more than you would if it was like something about yourself
versus your kid.
Because it's your kid, and like you can't live with that shit. So you're gonna say something. So in these situations, because of the team that we have built,
comes back to that.
I knew that I could bring this feedback up and not have it be taken negatively, but it could be explored. It would be received well. That was the first thing, is I felt very safe. First thing is I trusted myself. Second thing is that I had built a team that I felt very comfortable to bring up my concerns.
And I think something you did, I think I do remember this, is like you set that expectation in the very beginning.
About what?
Like that, hey, if I have questions or I want to be able to communicate, like you set that expectation up front and made sure they were okay with like, hey, if I have a concern, I can reach out and talk to you about it. So it was set up front as well.
I think I've also said my value is over communication, and it is going to be part of our process.
And so that kind of leads into some of the questions that we should be asking, right? Because I think when you first put your child into some support or some therapy, it's hard to speak up because you don't feel you know enough.
Right.
So it's hard to be like, maybe they're doing the right things. And I think sometimes you just get locked in. Well, they're the experts. They know what they're doing. So I can't challenge it or anything. And that's hard. But I think just you should want to know and want to be able to communicate. So valuing that and asking for that and seeing how they respond when you say, hey, if I have concerns or questions and I want to reach you, can I reach you?
Well, I think that also is I'm so glad you kind of pulled that out, because for some people who maybe do not have the innate ability to be doing that, and I'm not trying to put myself on like a pedestal. What I'm saying is that like everybody has different skills, right? And communication is one of my stronger skills. And yet it's still uncomfortable, right? It's still uncomfortable. Sure. And so I was thinking about this as you were talking. Whenever we're proactive about things, whenever we set the tone from the beginning, it always gives us permission to do it later. And so it takes the pressure off, right? So like, for example, I know Jarrod and I both have done this when leading workshops. We have both said, I will be interrupting. Like I'm trying to keep us on time, or if it's something that I feel
I say it every time.
Yes.
It's my job.
Yes. So with that being said, then when he does do that, then it's not taken in any way like, oh, I already knew that was going to happen. So this is the same thing, is being upfront. Now, again, you're not going to know all the questions. And as we've also discussed multiple times, is that this is going to evolve. Yeah. This is nothing is forever, right? This is a temporary evolving journey. But building a team where you can go to with your concerns and your questions is really important. And like, that's what I would really just say about advocating. And then I would really love to go to some of these questions. But the last piece that I would just add in terms of advocating is like trusting your instincts, exploring them, listening to autistic voices of people who have shared information. So like if you're wanting to educate yourself more, maybe about your decisions that you're making, listen to the people who actually are autistic.
And that's something we might have said in the last episode, but just remember, a lot of things you're reading online from the research or people writing things are people who are not autistic.
Right. They are not experiencing autism.
They are not experienced. So they are not, in my eyes, as much of an expert as there's so many autistic people who have written books, who are on Instagram, who are sharing their experiences. And again, one-to-one. One autistic person is one autistic person, right?
But still better than a neurotypical person.
Yeah, but they share what they wanted and what they wish they could have had.
Autistics on Autism by Carrie Margot. Love him on Instagram. I'll tag him, and I will also tag this book. These are all written by people who, I think it's like it's exactly what you just said. Autistic people, what they wish their parents had known, also like things that they wish other people had known. It's really great stories that you need to hear about what helped them while growing up and pursuing their dreams.
Yeah,
so great. I think it's great. And we can go into the questions if you think that would be helpful.
Yeah. And just remember too, like, I think a big thing is, and what we've done well is just remember that people that are supporting your children are also human, and they're not going to be perfect. Right. So that's really important.
Yeah.
And it is uncomfortable to speak up. So when you have a feeling or something, some people might just make a decision to leave and pull.
Right, because it's so uncomfortable.
Because it's so uncomfortable, but speak up first. Yeah. Ask questions, because give them a chance. If it's the right place and the right people, they'll make the changes. And that's better off than having to go navigate, trying to switch places and find a new, you know what I mean? So it is uncomfortable, but I would say speak up on the front end that you want that, and that they're aligned to open communication and having that dialogue. And just know these people are doing really good work. Mm-hmm. They're also human, and they have challenges, and they're not going to be perfect, and they're going to have off days. So be willing and able to understand that, but also communicate when you have something, and not just make a decision because you have a feeling. Like, if you like the people in the center you're with, or this therapist you're with, give them a shot. Like, we all want a shot.
You're right. None of them are perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. We're all human. And I just watched an Instagram by Kaylin, I think her name is Kaylin Partlow. She was on Love on the Spectrum, and she is an autistic advocate and is autistic herself, and just did a huge keynote speaking to ABA therapists, anybody, like a lot of different professionals in the field. And she was saying that these people were laughing, crying, trying to learn more, really wanting to make progress in the field. Like, it's not all bad. And the thing is that you're going to find like, it's not just ABA, it's OT, it's speech, like
It's all of it.
it's all of it. So it's coming back to the people, if you're trust that progress is being made and that they do care about your child, give them a chance.
And that's your parental instinct.
Yeah.
And trust that. Like, do they care?
Yeah.
If they care, they're going to communicate. If they care, they're going to be honest.
Right.
And you can tell when you're on a phone or you're talking to somebody, and like when they're talking about your child, how they feel about your child. Like,
Totally.
be involved.
Yep.
Like, that's important too. Like, be
involved. We're very involved.
We're so much involved. Like, it's really important to us, and it's really hard. So coming back to the first episode, you got to understand your experience first, because this is impacting you as an individual. So to all the things we're saying, we weren't great at this at the beginning, and sometimes we weren't good until we actually like, what is this doing to us? How is this impacting our lives as individuals and as a couple? Until we were able to move on, and yeah, those moments still come up, but until we were able to process that and move on, then it became a sole focus on Jake. And so we were able to advocate and trust our instincts and speak up when we needed to speak up, and those things have been really, really important. So I just think it's important to note, like, don't forget you're also a human going through this experience with your child, right? It does change you and impact you, and you have to understand that first, because those feelings of fear and all those things are going to hold you back from really being able to trust yourself and trust the decisions that you want or need to make. So I just want to make sure to mention that again. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. Like, we were not the way we are now 2 years ago, right? We were really uncomfortable. We were fumbling around. Now,
we didn't know if we were right.
Right. And so now, with 2 years under our belt, really understanding Jake, putting Jake first, coming along with like our values on these things. We know what questions to ask.
And I would say, after everything we talked about tonight, it really is about the team and the people, right? Do they see your child? They care about your child? Do they want to be partnered with you? It's a partnership to support their child, because they are a part of your family. Like, that's what it feels like. They are a part of our family, because they're with our child a lot of the time. And so their level of care, their level of love, their level of openness, right, is so important. And again, it doesn't matter to me as much the therapy. Yes, certain therapies I know he needs and needs to support him, but it's all about the people that I'm choosing to trust, to send my child to, and believe that they see him, believe in him, and want the best for him. And that's, right now, we have that. And that feels really good.
All this being said, we took some time to think about what are the most important questions that we have asked, what we think are really important now that we've been in this field for several years. We've compiled this list. We would love for you to have it. It is a free guide, free downloadable tool that you can use.
Yeah, I also think it's not just going to be questions of how to find the right support. It's also questions you got to start with yourself.
Yeah,
I think
that
that's
would
where
be part
it
of
starts.
it as well.
So I think
it's like a little guidebook.
What questions should I start with myself to ask? And then when I'm starting to seek out support for my child, what questions do I want to ask these certain centers, these certain therapists, these certain people that we believe will just help you know right now, is this the right place or the right therapist or the right support that my child needs? Yeah. Because it's tough. It's really challenging.
It's really challenging.
And I luckily have this amazing wife who she's a insane researcher, right? So we're in a great position, a lot of because what has she done, and she's taught me a lot. So I think the questions that we're going to provide you are really, really valuable. And it's just a starting point. They're not all the right questions, but if you're stuck, lost, don't know what to do next, like, these are just great places to start and ask questions. And as you ask those first questions, the more questions will come. Right. So we just want to help support in because we know how challenging this is. Nikki talked to 27 different places to find the right place. So,
and I will tell you, as we were interviewing ABA centers for this next round, it was a very different experience.
Way different.
Because of,
you knew exactly what questions to ask.
I knew what I was looking for. It was much easier.
5-minute conversation. Oh, no.
Yeah, not the fit.
See ya.
Yep. So anyways, to get this, you can click within the show notes. There'll be an offering in there for you to do that. And you just give us your email. So that way we can send it to you. And then it'll also be on my blog, What Nick Knows. All of this, again, will be in the show notes. And we did a 2-part series on autism. And I'm sure there is so much more.
There's so much more. We'll probably come back to it down the road. But we just want to hear from you guys, too. Like, if you are going through this, questions you have, concerns you have, what's going on with you, anything that we missed,
anything we can support you with,
anything else that you think people would benefit from that maybe we didn't end up talking about, because it's such a spectrum, but there's so much you can keep going to. I mean, we really scratched the surface on these 2 episodes, and it was really through our lens. So we love anyone in our community that has more information or wants to share their story, because we know how valuable that is. So we're grateful, and this is something we've been really challenged with to talk about, and I'm glad we shared it, because from the first episode we got so many great responses and people reaching out, and that's, again, what we hope to do. Is part of our human experience is our son Jake, and this is what we know, and we want to share it. So if you're finding value in this, please subscribe, please write comments, please let us know your thoughts. We really enjoy this.
Share it to somebody you think that would be...
share it with somebody who need it. I think the subscribe button is to the right of Nikki, the bottom right over there.
And then on iTunes, it is below. It's on the follow.
It's on the follow. I don't even know what that means. I think it's just one follow button there.
Yeah.
No, but we were great, and we really need your support, and we want to keep getting the show out there, because we hope that the conversations we're having are conversations that need to be heard. Because it's about life and challenges and being in a relationship, and the good, the bad, the dirty, the ugly.
Good night.
We love you guys. Good night.